Well, hello there. I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox Watch Reviews, and thanks for logging on. Well, it is a cold and rainy night in Philadelphia, but in here the lights are hot, the watches are cool, and we've got tons of free stuff to give away throughout. Welcome to Watches Live Episode 4. I can see we already have Hulk, Eddie, and Matt Forster. Eddie, you're almost first. Almost. Keep your record up. Proprietor of the Facebook Watch You Want, now Watchbox group. Eddie, you're going to have to change that. All right, so today in the life, we had Kieran Shakar and Pierre Halimi, friends of the house, coming through our headquarters, which means that we can only start with FP Journe. Now, where did FP Journe start? Well, he started with scholarship. His first watch was the Tourbillon Remontoire, but his second watch was perhaps even more unique and memorable. You're looking at an early 38mm platinum brass movement Resonance 1. Now this is an exciting watch for two reasons. First, it's the original. After 2009, we saw a different dial layout that frankly didn't have quite the same charisma. Second, it was the first of its kind. Never before had a resonance watch in which two independent escapements and powertrains synchronize each other, been executed in a wristwatch format. Now, after early experiments with a pocket watch, FP Journe was able to realize this in a wristwatch. Now, what's beautiful about it is that it has two heartbeats. If a mechanical watch is romantic because it has that unique cadence to it when you put it against the ear, this watch is a double heartbeat and a double heart throb. Now, I do want to show you one of the most singular features of the watch. You wind the twin mainspring barrels and you set the two independent displays using the crown at 12 o'clock. But it does take about 10 minutes for the resonance effect to take full purchase on the two balances. So what you want to do after 10 minutes is you want to synchronize them using the pusher-puller at 4 o'clock. So this is the original, the 38, the classic, and yes, one of the latest. I can tell you that this case was created in 2004, which was the end of the line for the brass movements. A classic and a collectible. This is leading the line for FP Journe tonight. I see our global audience is spilling in. Horology blog. Hey guys, welcome. Will Bauman. Hey Tim. Hey Will, nice to have you on. I can see Marco, I can see Karkin, and I can see the Marquis. George, welcome aboard, my man. Up in Hoboken, I believe? Okay, so now we're moving on to a watch that represents one of the earliest automatic Journe. Now, you know the Octa family. Since 2001, FP Journe for a long time intended to create the Octa family. In fact, the famous napkin sketch from the restaurant in 1994, which is now on display in Montreux-Journe in Geneva, shows the Octa watches he planned so early on, but it took him 2 years to devise a movement to his standards in an automatic format that would keep his, shall we say, high standard of chronometry despite automatic winding. Now, FP Journe has often said that the two features are at odds, automatic winding and chronometer status. So he compromised in his fashion. This is a 5-day power reserve, but here's the secret that's not disclosed. It can actually run for just over 7 days. All of the Octas can. The reason FP Journe advertises the watch, any Octa, as a 5-day power reserve is this is the peak consistency of the torque output. After that, it'll keep time, but not to his standard. His bar is a high one. Now, I'd love to say that this watch is easy to find, but sadly, this is one of the few I've ever seen with the brass Octa caliber, the 38mm case, the rose gold metal choice, and the white gold dial. Put all of them together and you have a watch that, if not a piece unique, is part of rarefied air indeed. Stratified company, you're not going to see another one of these. And that's the wonderful thing about FP Journe. So many permutations of dial, case, movement, and era that many of these watches are effectively limited series, unbeknownst to any but the true connoisseur. So this is the Octa chronograph. It is a flyback, I should mention too. The flyback being one of the unadvertised features of this series alongside the power reserve. Now guys, we are going to be giving away some free gifts tonight. I've got awesome stuff. My man Claudio has hooked me up with Roger Dubuis's latest cap. Whether you're a fan of the early Sogem era watches or the latest high flyers, this is a watch with which you can style. Black with white trim, I'd say this one's a bit more Philly or New York. But for those of you who are going to be styling on the Sunset Strip or back in my old haunts on Miami Beach, you're going to want this one. Blinding white like my shirt. It's a Rolex cap. Fly your colors, bleed green, Rolex. And I've got a Rolex pocket knife for those of you who aren't flying on a regular basis. The TSA won't love it, but you will. And a unique leather Rolex loose leaf holder. It's a great notepad and absolutely singular. I've never seen anything like it. Leave it to Rolex to innovate. Now guys, I can see Watch Issues is asking me, Tim, if you could only have one Journe, which one would you pick? Chronomet Optimum, 40mm case, black label. I was talking to Kieran Chikar about this today, and he was saying that he was probably a black label Chronomet Optimum guy himself. So 2 votes for the Chronomet Optimum from one guy who knows and one guy who's faking it till he's making it. All right, moving on. We know everyone's talking about Rolex. Everyone's talking about the Daytona in particular after the blowout auction at Phillips, and to be frank, you can't have the Paul Newman 6239, but you can have this red-hot Daytona stainless steel ceramic. Now you'll see about 3 of the white dials for every 1 of the black. Personally, I'm all about the black. You know me, New York through and through. You can take the boy out of New York, you can't take the New York out of the boy. And since you do see fewer of them, long-term, I do believe this will be the better one to buy and hold. I would also say that because the bezel flows seamlessly into the lacquer of the dial, it looks larger on the wrist. This is the 116500 LN, and this is one to own, just over 18,000. No wait, buy it now. That's Watchbox. All right, guys, I also want to remind you that while steel is real and probably the purist's choice in cosmographs, for me, it's all about precious metal. Most of my watches are. In fact, I'm wearing a platinum Grand Memovox right now. I think we can do 2 things here. We can do a wrist shot off the wrist, because I want to show you all of its gorgeous contours, sinuous lines, and sexy curves. But what we're also going to do is a sound off. This is a Grand Memovox after all, guys. So I have plenty to say. Let's let the watch have its. Okay, so folks, this is the caliber 919. This is the one that came out in 1989 in the original Grand Reveil. You know it as the watch that looked like a potato. Platinum watch, bronze gong, nothing like it. This is the one that travels with me so I can wake up at all those odd hours. Okay, folks, speaking of precious metal, let's talk about the one, the only, the 2013 world premiere. This is the anniversary Daytona. You're looking at the 116506. Now, what set this one apart? It wasn't the first use of a ceramic bezel. That was 2011. And it wasn't the first use of precious metal. For years, the Daytona, almost from inception, has been available in some form of precious metal. What set this one apart is that it was the first ever platinum Daytona. It weighs over a ½ pound in the hand. It's a mountain of white metal, platinum extra white, created in Rolex's own foundry. The sensation of it on the wrist is unmistakable. Eyes closed, you know you're wearing something special. Eyes open, you know you're wearing something spectacular. That classic glacier blue platinum Q. If you're a Rolex guy, if you bleed green, you already know what the glacier blue cues. What you won't get anywhere else, though, is the combination of the chocolate ceramic bezel, the chocolate chapter rings for the counters, and the same treatment on the individual indices. This is the Daytona to own. If you want stealth wealth, if you want a historic piece, if you want the watch that feels like a mighty mountain of metal on the wrist without making a look at me statement, you want this. Once again, very New York, very Philly, very European in its execution. Rolex could have gone full bling. They didn't. They kept it subtle, they kept it classy, and they stuck with the nice trim pre-super case. Fortunately, we haven't seen the Daytona given over to elephantitis like the rest of the GMTs, the subs, and the Sea Dwellers. That said, not everyone is into a light dial, and not everyone is into platinum. If you're into a white metal, but you don't want to pay the platinum premium, you've got to go with Rolex's own white gold. Now, this is the Daytona 116509 white gold, same size, same movement, in-house caliber. But what sets this one apart is the spectacular tritone dial, redolent of the Daytona's racing history. You've seen this combination of black, white print, and red highlights on 1,000 tracks around the world for the last 50 years. This is the one to own if you're into the motorsports roots of the watch, but you don't want to give up the gold, and you get it here. Homogeneous and white, straight through Rolex's own gray gold. That's the terminology. Scratch it and there's just more white metal underneath. That's the key to Rolex's gray gold, not rhodium plated. All right, we've got a special notice. I want to remind everyone that you should go to Watches Live at govbergwatches.com to enter for this swag. Those of you who are watching for the first time, this is where you send your name, your phone number, and your address so I can reach out to you and give you this stuff for free. Shipping's on me, and we're going to do it quick. So just go to Watch is live at govbergwatches.com. We haven't swapped over to Watchbox just yet there, guys. So remember, it's still govbergwatches.com. Join me and get yours. All right. Live audience coming through. Philip Hayden, wow, my thoughts exactly. Also wanted to mention watch issues, give me a thumbs up. Your name suggests issues, but you've got the right idea. Further, ST3, Tim, glad you're on tonight. I'm glad I'm on tonight. This is where I want to be. So we can finish up with what might be the Rolex Daytona of 2017. This is part of the family of solid gold Oysterflex watches. Now we're continuing to build on that heritage of the ceramic bezel. We first saw that on the rose gold in 2011. We're building on the in-house caliber from 2000. Now we're adding Oysterflex. You saw it back in 2015 on the Yacht Masters. What it actually is a vulcanized rubber bracelet. Yes, a bracelet. Oysterflex is an aluminum titanium alloy inside a vulcanized rubber sheath, which means that it has long-wearing durability and it can never sever. It also features a bellows on the underside that allows your wrist to aerate in the heat and also cinches it close. Now you still get a substantial clasp, milled out Rolex Everrose. It will never fade to yellow, and you get the signature Easy Link 5mm tool-free adjustment built in. If you love the look of the Daytona, but you love the strap too much to give it up, why choose? Why compromise? Get them both. Cosmograph, Oysterflex, Rolex, you're on a roll. Okay, guys, now I've had some comments in the past to the effect that I'm anti-IWC because you've seldom seen it on this show, and with many of my this or that features on our broadcast channel, I've occasionally weighed against the IWC option. Well, let me tell you, there is no brand I respect more than IWC. Jaeger-LeCoultre owns my heart. JLC, the heart, but IWC has substantial purchase on my head, and I'm going to give you the IWC tonight. Let's start with an all-time classic. We're on a precious metal kick tonight. This is a classic and a purist's IWC. Tritium dial, blue lacquer, 3713. This is a limited series of 150 made in platinum. It is the Richard Habring Doppelchrono Generation 2. The first gen was 93 to 95. This one was from roughly 1996, I should say, to about 2005. Now it's 42 millimeters, so again, the elephantitis IWC has its own bout, unfortunately, in the Pilot series. Has not set in here. It wears well on a smaller wrist. Incredibly rich. You can see the depth of that case and the old-style hallmarks on the flank. You can also see that with a solid case back in platinum, this thing is a treat on the wrist. Heavy, rich, and grand. Of course, being a split-second chronograph, you get that Doppelchrono functionality. Now, before watchmaking genius Richard Habring, I should mention, split-second chronographs were the realm of the bespoke, the exclusive, the high horology. This is something that you would get from the likes of a Patek Philippe, a Vacheron Constantin, an Audemars Piguet, and then only on appeal and approval. Once we had the split-second system from Richard Habring, the regular enthusiast could have a Rattrapant, and not only that, but built on a rock-solid 7750 automatic base. And if platinum isn't your thing, and you believe that a tritium dial tool watch should only be crafted in steel, purists, I've got an option for you, because I've got the same 3713 right here, 42 millimeters, stainless steel, tritium dial, gorgeous tritium phase, and I've got it in stainless steel. You can also see this one with a beautiful stepped bezel and case flank, has incredible definition. You're not going to see many watches approaching 20 years old with this much metal intact. Minimally, if ever refinished. You can even see the hairline bevel along the flank, spreading beautifully as it approaches the termination of the lug. Elegant, graceful, subtle in a way you might not expect of a modern IWC Pilot's watch. This one has all of the toys, like that split-second functionality. Whether you're timing aircraft or on the pylons at Reno, 2 cars across a racetrack start-finish, or simply your kid at the track meet, IWC Pilot's Doppelchronograph Gen 2 old school hardcore. Now, if you want to get really old school, and by old I mean 19th century, I'm going to invoke FA Jones, the American father of IWC Schaffhausen, and the 2005 tribute in his name. This is the IWC Portuguese FA Jones limited series of 500. We're back to the grandest of precious metal, platinum. This one with a combination of pocket watch cues and wristwatch. You can see it has elements that pay homage to FA Jones. You can see the vintage FA Jones style signature on the dial, the 19th century style Arabic numerals, and the onion style crown. But where this one really goes into full tribute mode is on the case back. Now you're looking at a 98,000 series IWC manual wind pocket watch movement in the tradition of FA Jones and the Portuguese wristwatch, both known for pocket watch calibers. This one beaten away at a big beat, 18,000 vibrations per hour. You can almost count the ticks against your ear. What it lacks in rate, it makes up in inertia. You can see that's almost a third of the width of the movement. Guilloche cut, beautiful inch-long Jones index fine adjustment mechanism. It's also a Breguet overcoil, so when you loop this one, you get your money's worth. And Mike Michaels has confirmed to me in the course of servicing these 98,000s that they are beautiful even where you can't see them. The watchmaker knows and the watchmaker's impressed, and that's the imprimatur of authority that I respect most. This one, with lacquer dial, is quite simply the Portuguese if you love IWC history and you can't buy true vintage. Now that said, not all of us are into simplicity. Some, like me, love our precious metals and complications, and why not have both? I have to say this watch is visually loud, but it is audibly loud too. Now I will say the tourbillon, a flying mechanism, IWC's exclusive, they only make flying tourbillon, is the centerpiece of the dial, but in person you can hear this watch at arm's length. If you're, shall we say, in love with the heartbeat of the watch, if you find the allure of the tick-tock just too great to ignore, if that's what you crave in the mechanical watch experience, the audible evidence of the watch with a life of its own, you can't do any better here. This thing absolutely declares itself. From the batwing bridge to the tourbillon with its ball bearings on the back, to that gorgeous grayscale facade with the immense broadsword minute hand. And folks, you do not often see independent seconds and a tourbillon on a tourbillon watch. It's usually the tourbillon cage that serves the purpose. Rare in that respect, rare as a complication among Portuguese, rarest of the rare. This was a one-year series in 2009, and you can see on the side, folks, only 100 folks at a time will ever have the privilege. Now, let's face it, IWC is nothing if not bold, and not everyone is into the tool watch, and not everyone is into the Portuguese. For the true connoisseur who loves everything Schaffhausen, there is the DaVinci series. If you're one of those IWC Forum lifers, you've had the IWC Forum watches, including the DaVinci, you're going to love this homage to the original 3750 of 1985. If you loved the signature hinge lugs that make a big watch wearable, again, get ready to fall in love all over again. 43 millimeters, perpetual calendar chronograph with an extraordinary aventurine counter at 12 o'clock, grayscale dial, white gold Arabic numerals, gorgeous Delta-style hands at center, and when you turn it over, here's something that original 80s DaVinci couldn't boast. A manufacture movement from base to module. It's an 89,000 in-house 68-hour automatic chronograph caliber with a 4-pawl Peloton winding system. And on the opposite side, you have the Kurt Claus perpetual calendar system. Everything adjusted through the crown, one point of adjustment, no case side pushers to mar the profile. This is the best of what IWC is, past, present, and future. Reference 3921. This is a 2010 SIHH novelty, and the best of the lot, in my opinion. All right, guys. Folks, do we have any winners tonight? All right, remember, you want to send your email to watcheslive@govbergwatches.com. My attendants are standing by to pick our winners. Okay, so Tim, do you have any days off? Eddie Landsberg. Not really. When you love what you do, the two blend seamlessly. All right. I will say this, when I go home tonight, I will open up eBay, Chrono24, and Purists Pro. I will also open up thewatchbox.com to see our new arrivals, because I can tell you, if a JLC minute repeater arrives, none of you guys are beating me to the punch. Not this time. Lesson learned. Okay, lesson learned. Let's move on to a JLC I'm going to let you buy out of the goodness of my heart. Now, this was one of the middle references in the Master Calendar series. JLC has had a calendar watch of some kind in its catalog continuously since the 1930s. And from 2005 to about 2012, this was the one you bought. 40 millimeters in stainless steel. It's a JLC base caliber, JLC module. You get a power reserve, moon phase, and a triple calendar. The layout is intuitive, the apertures are optimal, and it's a beautiful watch that you can wear with anything. This isn't a dress watch, it isn't a sports watch. Like a Ducati Monster, it's an all-arounder. It's a standard. It's one that would be welcome in any company, in any role. Gorgeous on both sides. This is a watch that's getting increasing recognition from collectors as one of the best of the Jerome Lambert era at Jaeger-LeCoultre and one of the most enduring designs of the 2000s. The 2000s were a minefield of oversized watches and gimmicks. This watch happily bucked both trends. You're going to have this watch for under $6,500, guys, and you're going to get a handmade timepiece and the gateway to true high horology. But let's say you want to go full-on sport. You still want to stick with the 2000s, and roughly 40 millimeters is a good size for you. Well, if you want just a bit more durability, water resistance, you want the Dualmatic. Master Compressor Dualmatic. This watch came out in 2004, and it was important on two counts. First, it took the Master Compressor series to the next level with a true dual-time complication in a quirky layout. That's what the double apertures are for. The little index points in 24-hour format to the reference time zone. Now, you'll also note that it has a internal rotating bezel, like the original Polaris diving alarm, which lends some of its dial features. This is a watch that is 100 meters water resistant, and unlike the vintage piece, you can take it in the water with a clear conscience. Thanks to the compressor crown system, 1/2 turn, and I'm going to demonstrate how this works. Red, you're dead. 1/2 turn opens the crown. Now you can access it for winding and turning. 1/2 turn secures it. And white, you're tight. Just like that, easier than any screw-down system, more elegant than Panerai's locking lever. The Master Compressor system is quintessential Jaeger-LeCoultre in the modern era. This watch was part of the debut class of modern JLC sports watches, the first since the 70s, and I can't imagine a better way to break into JLC sports watches. Again, under $6,500. It even has the rose gold medallion that they used to fit to the Master 1000 certified watches. Rich, just enough of a vintage, I would say a vintage prospect as a watch that's now entering its second decade. This is one to hold for the future. If you like to buy and hold, I can see this being a classic of the 2020s. If you've seen what the Polaris has done, if you've seen what the Deep Sea has done, don't miss the boat the next time. Get yourself one of these Master Compressors to enjoy now and perhaps collect later. All right, folks. The marquee is mentioning it's an educational channel. I hope so. That's my goal. I want to make the videos that I wanted to watch as an enthusiast on the outside looking in. And a question from Santino N. Are those crowns uncomfortable? I will say this. No. They don't dig the wrist. They don't interfere in no way. If you can wear a watch with a crown guard, say a Rolex Submariner, you can wear a Master Compressor. And in my opinion, it's both easier to use and more original. Okay. I see right now Marco N. Congratulations. I believe that's Marco Nikolic. Marco, welcome. Congratulations. Thanks for joining us. You're getting a Roger Dubuis hat. Of course, I'm anglicizing that. That is Roger Dubuis, Geneva's finest, whether you're a fan of the early homage and sympathy timepieces or you love the latest and the big and the bold. You know what? Both ways it works. This is a high-grade hat. You're going to love it, keeping your hat warm through the long winter. And as we know from a famous cable program, winter is coming. All right. I can see that Gary Smith is asking, is this now a shopping channel? No, this is an ad. The shopping is all done on thewatchbox.com. I try to keep my infotainment exactly that. 1/2 info for your purchases, 1/2 entertainment. If I can meet you halfway, I'm a happy man and you're a happy customer. TheWatchbox.com. Remember, guys, this ain't Watch You Want anymore. Watch is live at govbergwatches.com for now. We're going to change that too. All right, folks, I can see that we have a lot of you joining us tonight. Andre saying the email is not working. We fixed it. No? Oh, okay, cool. We're just picking. That's great. We're just picking from the chat box. So who knows? Maybe you'll be our next winner. All right, so what have we talked about? We've talked about IWC, FP Journe, Rolex, JLC. You know, let's give Panerai some love because we're doing the Richemont rounds tonight, and I think it's important to remember that Watch You Want, now Watchbox, started with Officine Panerai out of O.J. Whatley's living room. Actually, that's being quite fair. I think it was actually out of his bedroom, and he had a safe in there. But you know what? He never had anything as grand as this back in 2004, because that's the year Panerai launched the Panerai Luminor Chrono Tantalum, a limited series of 500 pieces. You can see that signature blue hue in the satin finish of the case flanks and the polish of the bezel. In my opinion, if you can only own one Panerai chronograph, it's the PAM 163, the PAM 520, or this model, the PAM 192. It's also got a little bit of moonwatch inside. I talk about the heartbeat of the watch. This is a Lamagna 1872 manual wind caliber inside this G-series watch. Why is that important? Because that's the twin register version of the watch that goes to the International Space Station. That's the 1873 base that becomes Omega's 1861. This watch is gorgeous. In the hand, it has the feeling of precious metal. To the eye, it has the allure almost of gunmetal. It's beautiful blue, satin, and dark. It has a depth to it. It has an allure that is unique to this particular metal. And if you've ever fallen in love with the case of an FP Journe Chronomètre Bleu, or this year's only watch mono-pusher chronograph, then you know what tantalum is all about. If you don't, you owe it to yourself to try this one on the wrist. It will make you a believer. PAM 192. This is my favorite Panerai Luminor chronograph. Now, since I get to pick my favorites, I have to say that my heart, well, at least one ventricle, belongs to a Lange Sohne. The second and close second to Jaeger-LeCoultre in my heart. The company out of Glashütte, not the bigger one, but the grandest, is one of our focal points for tonight. Now, this is the Datograph up-down. Circa 2012, the famed Dato, launched in 1999, got a makeover. What was a barely acceptable 36-hour power reserve became 60+, and the case, which had been 39, became a borderline 41. Now, this watch is bigger, it is a bit bolder, it gives you the power reserve scale at 6 o'clock, but it's a Dato through and through, featuring the same standard of finish that inspired Philippe Dufour to make a Datograph his personal timepiece and the only modern watch he's bought for himself. This one, like any Dato, is an instant classic, and in my opinion, if you're going to get one, you're going to get a white metal with a black dial. This watch will inspire you, it will thrill you. If it looks good on camera, see it with your eyes. The lens lies, guys, and believe me, the eyes tell the story, and the story is thrilling. Now, this isn't a bedtime story, so don't leave me just yet, but I want to talk about the Lange 1 time zone. This one debuted in the mid-2000s. I should launch out off the bat with the acknowledgement that this is in the original Grand Lange case. So you're looking at 41 plus. It is a big watch by my calipers, and I've measured it at 41 plus. The key thing about this watch is it takes the best aspects of a dual time and a world time, because you have your second time zone indicator, and then you have a triangular index right next to it. You align your reference city, 24 reference cities for the 24 principal time zones, and this extraordinary hand-finished movement with its Glashütte-style 3/4 plate and double engraved cocks then calculates, doing the math for you, displaying the correct time in that subsidiary time zone. So that watch would be my travel companion were I wearing Lange for my next trip to Switzerland, which will be ironically to SIHH, to see the new Langes, among others. And if you don't have to travel, I may say that why not combine the beloved Datograph with yet another classic grand complication. This is the Datograph Perpetual, a watch that originally debuted at SIHH way back in 2006. This is the answer to watches like the 5270, the I would say more than anything else, the 5270, because this is a contemporary reference. This is less about the 5970 and more of the 2010s mentality. This is a watch that is all executed in-house. This is a watch that is like glancing through an Amazon of polished brass, steel, and nickel copper. It doesn't get any better than this on either side. Now, this is one to own. You can have this watch pre-owned for under 100 grand, new for over 160,000. Believe me, with a service life of 300 years, I know which one would be my choice. A gorgeous combination of a gray dial and a white metal. This is discretion at its best, quintessentially Lange. This is the kind of watch you wish you could wear upside down. Do we have any more winners from our chat? All right, while we pick winners, why don't I pick my next watch? Guys, we are taking live questions too. Is that lume on the hands? I assume we're talking about the dado, in which case the answer is absolutely, and I will go back to those hands for one quick second for reference. Folks, this is my favorite hand design. I know it's kind of esoteric to say I have a favorite hand design. Pinched at the cannon pinion and then flaring. This is an alpha design. It's more elegant, in my opinion, than the similar but more massive Dauphines. I want to give a shout out to one of our friends in the chat box, because as we talk hands, I have to give a hand to Santino N. Santino, you know what you're winning? You're matching my own accessory for the night. This is a Tim Mosso commemorative white Rolex hat. So whether you bleed green or you simply need green this holiday season to buy yourself some accessories or some gifts, I'm gonna spot you a freebie. This Rolex hat, Santino, this one is yours. Congrats, man. Again, Rolex is the standard. But speaking of standards, I have to say Rolex, someone else beat you to the punch by a few months when it came to the original modern dive watch. Not Lange, but if you want to talk about the original modern diver, it was courtesy of Captain Bob Maloubier of the French Navy, the original Blancpain 50 Fathoms, a watch conceived for the military that became a luxury standard. This 2010 special series of 500 pieces is the Blancpain Tribute to 50 Fathoms limited edition of 500. Now, this is also known as the no rad or the no radiations, because in its second decade of production, the 1960s, as we began to better grasp the dangers of radium and simultaneously, thanks to the atomic age, the dangers of gamma radiation, first radium lume and then even tritium began to be phased out on watches for the public and the military. Thus, this watch, in its original iteration of the 60s, featured the same no-rad logo at 6 o'clock. This watch also diverges from the standard reference 50-15 50 Fathoms, the modern version, with a fully calibrated bezel. You don't get that on the standard 50 Fathoms. This one features the date at 3 o'clock. You don't get that on the standard 50 Fathoms. Vintage style indices and printed, not applied. You don't get that on the standard 50 Fathoms, nor do you get individual numbering and this commemorative case back on the standard 50. Now, you still get the same caliber 13-15, 5-day power reserve, free sprung, entirely hand finished. With the solid case back, you also get the anti-magnetic Faraday cage of soft iron around the watch. This is a watch that melds past and present in seamless luxury fashion. Built to a luxury standard, this is every inch the match for the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore Diver. If you want the best of the best with a strong historic overtone and that seamless cambered sapphire bezel, you need to consider the no-rad, the Tribute to 50 Fathoms. I will say this though, guys, if you want to go small and you want to go independent, but you still want to travel and make a time of it, let's say you're heading out to Val de Travers, you're going to Fleurier in the canton of Neuchâtel, and let's say you've got particular business associates in some place where unconventional time is kept. I mentioned when I was talking about the Lange 1 time zone, if we could for a moment, folks, 24 principal time zones, but that's terribly imprecise. Thanks to the folks we've come to know and love from the interview, North Korea and Pyongyang, we now have 41 separate time zones that diverge by anywhere from 30 to 15 minutes. And if you want that micro offset from your dual time watch, you need a watch that can handle an independent second time zone down to the minute. And Parmigiani Fleurier will oblige you. Now, you can see this watch with 2 time zones gives you the ability to set the second to the minute. Totally independent, that's a rare feature. You won't find it in any other watch selling pre-owned below $10,000. This is Parmigiani's signature teardrop lug style, invented by Michel Parmigiani himself to separate the structures of the case and the lugs, so that though this is a large watch at over 42 millimeters, you can wear it on a small wrist of 14 centimeters in circumference. Turn it over, and this is what Parmigiani's all about. Dual mainspring barrel, automatic manufacture watchmaking. Parmigiani makes every part of the watch, like Rolex. From the hands to the dial, to the case to the movement, right down to the hairspring, it is Parmigiani Fleurier through and through, a company distinctive in its approach to watchmaking and its style. You won't mistake it for anything else. On the wrist with a blue hue and a white metal, I would say this is one of the few watches that plays equally well in Miami or New York. Okay, folks. Oh boy, I got a note from one of our viewers. I bet Kim loves your show, Tim. Hey, Kim Jong-un, I know you collect sports cars. Why not watches? Give us a call. TheWatchbox.com. Buy pre-owned and save. I know your economy's not doing too well. This might be a great opportunity. Let's do business. Okay, guys, I want to emphasize that we are not done with tonight's bounteous collection of complications. I saved two of the best for last, and I'm not just saying that because one of the last two watches on the table is mine. No, back up. Two of the last three, let's say. This is undoubtedly the biggest gun on the table tonight, and it's a watch you will never see ever again. The first I've seen, the first time this watch has ever crossed my desk, and probably the last, you're looking at the original Parmigiani case from 1996. Now, this is the toric case. What it is, essentially, is a Greek column collapsed into a triple Gadron bezel, surrounding a three-quarter style plate featuring Côte de Genève and hand anglage, plus specular finish on a completely rounded tourbillon bridge with a filigree style tourbillon cage. Brian, can we get ultra close to this one? It needs its spotlight solo. This is a watch in platinum, 39.5 millimeters, that originally, can focus on that? Awesome, there we go. Full focus, this watch retailed for $285,000 when new. If you would like to own it for a lot less, you need to visit us on thewatchbox.com. Now, this watch features everything you want in a grand complication. Subtlety, you better believe it. Platinum, the white metal, is the king of them all, but it also doesn't draw an unwanted crowd. Do you want the king of complications? The tourbillon, the life's work and the magnum opus of Abraham Louis Breguet, the Babe Ruth of watchmakers. If you want to be able to admire the finish of your watch without pulling it off the wrist, you've basically got two choices and two games. You can get yourself a Reverso tourbillon like mine, or you can buy something like this where all is laid bare at the top level on the top of the watch. Turn it over, it's still pleasing, but what you're going to see back here is an open mainspring barrel that grants you a 75-hour power reserve. Now, you would be happy with 40 hours from a tourbillon. You'd be extraordinarily happy with more than 50. Over 3 days of power reserve with a tourbillon carriage is the best of both worlds, the ultimate complication, and this is a watch that can go days between windings. This is as good as it gets, guys, and it all caps with that gold chaton set in screws, a tribute to the history of Neuchâtel watchmaking and Fleurier craft at 12 o'clock. This is old school Parmigiani and as good as it gets. Now, I normally like to start with something like Audemars Piguet and end with something like Zenith because A to Z has a great ring to it, but I'm going to break convention and throw you for a loop. I'm going to do an end run around myself and complete this thing with some circularity. Like a Mobius strip, we end where we started with a Lange Sohne. Now, this is the Langematic. We first saw it at SIHH 2001, a grand complication and combination of everything that is Lange. Now, you can see those gorgeous alpha-style hands, yes, loomed, with you can see the moon phase at 6 o'clock on a solid gold disc, that's Lange style, with the panorama datum, or the outsized date, at 12 o'clock. And on the back, this is how Lange does an automatic. It's the Saxomat. It's the three-quarter rotor. Work started on this in 1992, and between the base caliber and the complication, it took from 1992 to 2001 to make this watch happen. A gorgeous golden rotor, and that's before you even get to the mass, which is platinum. How many winders give you gold and platinum all in one? I can count the number of companies on one finger. Lange. Hand-engraved balance cock, black polished swan's neck. Once again, when I talk about the watch you'd love to wear upside down, this is the kind of watch that comes to the head of the pack, foremost in my mind. Although I can't give you anything so grand for free. Gratis, Richard Scott, you're going to be a winner tonight. And thank you, eagle-eyed helpers, for grabbing all of these worthy winners from our chat box as we've experienced some tech difficulties with our email. Let me assure you, this Rolex pocket watch is far sharper than our email system tonight. Again, if you're flying, watch out for the TSA. Otherwise, this is the perfect combination of Swiss precision and Rolex style. This is a stocking stuffer for you or a loved one this holiday season. And if you don't hang stockings, who cares? Put it in your pocket. It's a pocket watch. All right, folks, I can see all of you are joining us at a rising rate, so much so that I'm almost sorry to end the broadcast right now. Andre Gutierrez mentioning the Parmigiani is good price for the complication. You and I think alike. You know what they say about great minds, Andre? I'm glad you're here. I can also mention Journe saying, holy tourbillon. That's a fact. And you know what? If ever a watch were worthy of blasphemy, it's this thing right on the table tonight. Gesundheit. What can I say? We're human here in the studio. We have a lot of Langes, and believe me, I got a lot of Lange love. I might have a few more on the next episode of Watches Live. Guys, thanks for joining us. I can see Rodriguez 2707, Belgium is out. You know what, Belgium? Back next Tuesday for another bout. Thanks a lot, guys. I want to remind you all, visit thewatchbox.com. It's our new website, faster, easier to use, and more fun. And as an enthusiast, I can vouch for that. You want to check out our website and follow me on Instagram. If it's not on our arrivals page, it's probably on my Instagram at Tim_Mosso. This has been Watches Live. I'm Tim. They're the amigos. This is the Watchbox. Over and out.